Joining me now from New York is filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, thank you for joining us. Let's start with the vice presidential debate between JD Vance and Tim Walz. I think Walz was absolutely crushed by Vance. He looked scared and stunned the whole time. His eyes looked like he'd just seen a ghost. It looked like a living nightmare for him. But I want to start with this disastrous malfunction by Tim Walz when he was forced to correct the record on whether he was in China for the Tiananmen Square protests. Have a listen to this.
Look, I will be the first to tell you, I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests, went in.
Ami, we know previously in the past he's misspoke about his military history, and now he's lied about being in China during the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989. How hopeless is this guy?
Yeah, he seems to exaggerate and lie a lot. I'm not sure what we can believe. Was he really born as a small child in Nebraska, they said? I don't know. But his answer was so bizarre. He just went on about his own history in the Midwest. And then went on to say, well, we actually took basketball teams to China and baseball teams and dancers and pickleball players and cornhole teams. I mean, what is going on? Look, thankfully for Tim Walz that no one cares about the vice presidential debate. If they did, this would have been a bad situation for Kamala Harris. Look, I've got 6 words for you. Josh Shapiro, Josh Shapiro, Josh Shapiro. Her not picking Josh Shapiro was one of the governor of Pennsylvania was one of the great unforced errors that I remember in political history. Look, let's run through some numbers. I know I promised you there'd be no math in this test, but just bear with me for a moment, okay? There are 7 million people voted in Pennsylvania in the 2020 election, okay? Right now, Trump is up, according to the Real Clear Politics average of polls, by 0.1%. That means he's up by about 70,000 votes in the entire, really at the end of the day, the race is going to come down to Pennsylvania. Everyone thinks so. And yet you didn't choose the most popular politician in Pennsylvania at a 60% approval rating, who's more popular than Kamala Harris and Trump and anyone else there. Look, that's what it comes down to. And she failed to do so. They had one job in this debate, which was to actually make good on what they've been saying on the campaign trail about JD Vance, that he's weird, that he is radical. They didn't do that. JD Vance, and I disagree with JD Vance on a lot of stuff, but he came across as cool, calm, and collected, had a command of the issues on a granular level to the point where actually Donald Trump doesn't have. And I think from that perspective, they simply failed.
No, look, I agree. I thought JD Vance was so impressive, and I even thought that, one day he could make a very good president. Have a listen to him demolishing the CBS moderators for lying to the audience.
Just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank you.
Margaret, the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process.
CBS muted him at the end, but Vance is on fire. I've got to ask you, how weak are these liberal media networks? They did the exact same thing to Donald Trump in the presidential debate.
Yeah, he did a great job calling out the moderators because, again, he has a real command of the facts. Unfortunately, that when they do fact check Trump, Trump doesn't have the same ability and command the issues to really turn it around on the moderators. like Vance did. Because what they did right there, they take one fact and they twist it and contort it to make their point, when in reality, all it's doing is essentially hiding what Vance was able to uncover. And I don't think they realized he was going to do that. Look, the larger problem, the systematic problem we have these debates is that they're run by the media. And a study was done by Syracuse University, which showed that only 3.4% of all American people in the media, all American media personalities, are Republican. So it's a systemic problem that we have in debates because they're run by the mainstream media, which are, in fact, mostly Democrats.
Yeah, and that's very, very clear. Now, let's turn to the situation in the Middle East. US President Joe Biden is calling for a ceasefire after Iran pummeled Israel with missiles. And then, of course, Israel announced a ground invasion in Lebanon. Iran has launched, well, around about 180 ballistic missiles at Israel now. And now Joe Biden wants a ceasefire.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Why? Right? I mean, you have to understand, okay, he's calling for a ceasefire. So really there's only one of two options here. Either he's asking for a ceasefire because he has an amoral policy of moral relativism. That is to say that you have two sides on the same moral level fighting. So therefore call a ceasefire because neither one is in the right. Or he's making a very cold, hard political calculation, which is the reason why he was pro-Israel initially after October 7th, and then threw Israel under the bus and backed the bus over them because he wants votes in Georgia and Michigan. I mean, just recently, Elise Slotkin, who's running for the Senate, who's a Democratic nominee in Michigan, revealed something, and she said that in their own internal polling, that actually Trump is up slightly in Michigan. So could that be the reason? Look, either way, it's awful. But at the end of the day, he's calling for a ceasefire after Lebanon. And I say Lebanon because, and not Hezbollah, because Hezbollah has 62 seats in the Lebanese parliament, and the anti-Hezbollah coalition has 37. They essentially control the parliament and the government. So Lebanon / Hezbollah has had an ongoing assault on Israel for the last year. They have rained down, understand this, 10,000 rockets on the state of Israel, and Israel's had to evacuate nearly 100,000 people. I don't want to let that number just go unnoticed. Because we get lost in the thousands here, all of a sudden we're talking about real numbers. 10,000 rockets, okay, falling on the state of Israel can you imagine if that was going on in Melbourne or in Sydney or New York? I mean, the entire country of Australia is much larger than the state of Israel, but that's what they had to endure, right? Now, we had Iran attacking because Iran has been emboldened by that. When they only hear hollow words and no backup, what do you think that's going to have them do? They're going to press what they think to be their advantage. So they saw that after Israel was trying to defend itself, they saw the president actually going after Israel like, well, this is our moment to rain ballistic missiles across Israel. And let's not forget, they did this also in April, where they sent 300 drones and rockets and missiles on Israel. And what was the response of the administration? Not against Iran. I mean, it was against Iran. They did skip some hollow words to Iran. But the real powerful words, when they went to the state of Israel and said, do not escalate this or you'll lose our support. Do you understand what is going on here? How amoral, if not immoral, this policy is? And by the way, can we also not forget, how do we lose this factoid? Iran is trying to assassinate Donald Trump in our country. I mean, where's that response? I don't get it.